Oh shit, they gonna y'all. They behind me. They gonna kill y'all. I'm gonna make them kill y'all. Today is the day I die. Today is the day I die, y'all. They gonna kill today, y'all. I'm finna make them kill. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry. I am so sorry. I'm finna make them kill. I love y'all.
What would you do if the person you loved suddenly pointed a gun at your head? How does a relationship that once felt like home become a prison of fear? And what happens when one man's pain explodes, setting off a chain of events that would shatter multiple lives in a single morning? This isn't just a story about a crime. This is a story about how things can go terribly, tragically wrong, and how the echoes of one moment of violence can ripple outwards, destroying everything they touch. Stay with me, because today we are diving deep into the devastating case of Antavius Brown, a case that forces us to ask a difficult question. Can you ever really see the breaking point coming? But before we get into this, if you're new to the lab, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon. We dissect real cases like this one, and you don't want to miss what we uncover next, as I will be playing you the full live stream later on in this video. I'm your host, and this is CRIMELAB Report. Now, to understand the end, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to meet the people involved not as headlines, but as they were before that fateful December day. Antavius Brown was a 36-year-old man from Columbia, South Carolina. He was in a relationship with a woman, a relationship that had lasted for 2 years. For a while, it must have worked. They shared a home at the Cross Hill Apartments on Blossom Street. They built a life that, from the outside, probably looked just like anyone else's. But 2 weeks before the incident, something shifted. The relationship ended. Antavius Brown promised to move out by the end of the year. The end of a relationship is always a tense, difficult time, a period of transition. He was still living there, a presence in a home that was no longer his. Can you imagine the tension, the unspoken words, the walking on eggshells? The woman he was with, whose name is not public, was a mother. Her children lived in that apartment. They were a part of this dynamic, witnesses to the slow unraveling of the world they knew. What were those 2 weeks like for them? Did they sense the danger, or did it all just feel like a normal, if uncomfortable, change? Everything was set for a move, for a new beginning in the new year. But on the morning of December 28th, 2024, that tension didn't just simmer, it exploded. It started like so many arguments do. An accusation. Brown accused her of cheating. But this wasn't a normal argument. This was a switch flipping. He pulled out a gun. He pointed it directly at her head. Can you even process that? One moment you're arguing, the next, you're staring down the barrel of a gun held by someone you once trusted. He put the gun away, but the violence wasn't over. Her children heard it. They heard their mother in danger. And they did something incredibly brave. They broke down the door and tried to fight him off. Kids, trying to protect their mom. In the chaos, as the victim and her children tried to finally escape, to get out of that apartment and away from him, Brown raised the gun again. This time, he didn't point it, he fired. The bullet hit her in the leg. She fell. There was blood. In that moment, as she later told police, she said she just knew she was about to die, right there, at the door of her own home. But she didn't die, and what happened next is almost harder to understand. Brown's reaction, he didn't flee. He didn't leave her there. He put her in the car. He drove her to the hospital. Think about that car ride. The silence, broken only by the sound of the engine and the pain. The fear. He was in the driver's seat, the man who had just shot her. And he continued the abuse. He was verbally and physically abusive during that ride. He pointed the gun at her again. He pointed it at himself. He was unraveling right there in the front seat, and he left the children behind. He left them alone in that apartment after they had just witnessed a shooting. What were they thinking? What were they feeling? Watching the car drive away. They arrived at MUSC Hospital on Forest Drive. This was her chance. This was the moment she could get help. As a nurse approached, she saw her lifeline. She whispered, her voice probably shaking, "He shot me. Please don't tell him that I told you, but he's the one who shot me." But her fear wasn't for herself in that moment. It was for her children. She told the nurse she was terrified that he would leave, that he would go back to the apartment to kill her children and then himself. Her instinct was right, because after that, Antavius Brown fled the hospital. He got back in his car, and he started to drive. And he had no intention of being taken alive. As Brown left the hospital, the system started to turn. Police were notified. They tracked his cell phone. First, it pinged near Leesburg Road. Then, it was on Garner's Ferry Road. Patrol cars from the Columbia Police Department and Richland County Sheriff's deputies began to converge. A chase was on. But this wasn't a silent chase. Brown decided to document his own end. He opened Facebook Live and started to live stream.
I just want everybody to know. I'm sorry. I dropped the ball. I let them get to me. They won. They won, y'all. I'm sorry. I was so blessed. I had made it through. There they go, y'all. Oh shit, they gonna kill y'all. They behind me. They gonna kill y'all. I'm gonna make them kill me, y'all. Today is the day Today is the day I die, y'all. They gonna kill me today, y'all. I'm finna make them kill me. I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry. I am so sorry. I'm finna make them kill me. I love y'all. Y'all know I gave this shit all I could. You feel me? I gave this shit all I could. You feel me? They coming. They coming. Feel me? And I gotta go. I gave this shit all I could, y'all. I gotta make these kill me. Feel me? It's been a real ride. My mama.
He turned his final moments into a public spectacle, and on that stream, he made his intentions crystal clear. He wasn't trying to get away. He was trying to force the police to end his life. He was in control of one thing, and one thing only: how it would end. Now, at that very same time, on that same Saturday morning, another life was unfolding just streets away. A 52-year-old man, Ryan B. Haman, was going about his day. We don't know where he was going. Maybe to run an errand, maybe to see a friend, maybe just out for a drive with his dog. It was a normal morning for him. He had no connection to Antavius Brown. He had no idea about the domestic violence incident, the chase, or the live stream. He was just another person in the city, going about his Saturday. He got into his white Toyota 4Runner, his dog by his side, and he headed out onto the road. Two lives, onto completely different paths, were on a collision course, both literally and figuratively, and neither of them knew it. The police chase continued, weaving through the streets of Columbia. The sirens, the speed, the frantic energy of the pursuit. And all the while, Brown was broadcasting his despair to the world. He approached the intersection of Garner's Ferry and Hazelwood Roads. The light was red. He didn't stop. He didn't even slow down. And at that exact moment, Ryan Haman was driving through that same intersection. He had the right of way. He had no reason to expect a car to come barreling through the red light. There was no time to react. The crash was violent, devastating, metal crunched, glass shattered. The sounds of the impact echoed, and then there was a deafening silence, broken only by the sirens that quickly caught up. Police and first responders rushed to the wreckage. It was a scene of utter destruction. And in the middle of it all, they found Ryan Haman and his dog. They had not survived the crash. They were innocent casualties of a storm they never saw coming. Officers approached Brown's destroyed vehicle. What were they expecting to find? An armed and dangerous man, a suspect ready to fight. What they found was different. The live stream was over. The chase was over. The crash had ended it. Antavius Brown was still alive, but he had taken one final act of control. He had shot himself. It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the stomach. He was rushed to a local hospital, but the damage was too severe. At approximately 12:30 p.m., December 28, 2024, Antavius Brown was pronounced dead. Back at the apartment on Blossom Street, police were piecing together the beginning of the story. They found a trail of bloody footprints. They found a pool of blood where the victim had been shot. The children were safe, taken to a nearby police station to be interviewed, to have their trauma documented. In the aftermath, the Richland County Coroner's Office officially identified the two men who had died: Antavius J. Brown, the 36-year-old who had started this chain of events, and Ryan B. Haman, the 52-year-old innocent man who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Experts from a domestic violence resource center called the Hive later pointed out something chilling, yet tragically common. They noted that domestic violence incidents increased by about 20% in December. The holidays, a time of supposed joy, can become a pressure cooker of financial stress, increased time together, and isolation. Was this a factor? Was the pressure of the season another weight on an already broken foundation? So, what do we make of all this? How do we process a story with no heroes, only victims? A mother shot and traumatized, children who witnessed unimaginable violence, an innocent man and his pet killed on a routine drive, and a man who, consumed by whatever demons he was fighting, became the agent of destruction for himself and others. This is the brutal reality of this case. There is no neat ending. There is no satisfying conclusion where justice feels served. It's just a landscape of loss. So what insight can we possibly take from this? What lesson is there in such senseless pain? Perhaps the lesson is in the pattern. The Hive experts identified a pattern. Holidays see a spike in these incidents. Knowing that pattern is power. It's the power to check in on your friends, your family, to look past the holiday cheer and see if someone is struggling behind closed doors. The lesson is in the victim's whispered plea to the nurse: "Please don't tell him that I told you." That is the voice of sheer terror. It reminds us that for victims, the calculus of survival, incredibly complex and dangerous. The lesson is that violence is never contained. It spills out. It affects bystanders, first responders, entire communities. Ryan Haman's death is the ultimate proof of that. His story is a permanent part of this tragedy, a reminder of the random course of one person's actions. This case is a stark, brutal window into the worst possible outcome of domestic violence. It's a call to pay attention, to listen, to not dismiss arguments as just couples fighting. If this story has impacted you, if it has made you think of someone you know, then let that be your call to action. Resources exist. Organizations like Sister Care and the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault are there to help. Their numbers are in the description below. Share this video, not for the views, but so that someone, somewhere, might see it and recognize a pattern in their own life before it's too late. What happened to Antavius Brown, his family, and Ryan Haman is a tragedy of the highest order. It's a story that deserves to be told with accuracy and respect for the facts, which is what we've tried to do here today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for remembering all the lives involved. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, but please, do so with respect. This is CrimeLab Report. Remember to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.